F1 podcast.
Hello, this is the Everything F1 podcast. You're about to witness all the latest breaking news from the F1 paddock. Stay tuned. So, hello and welcome to the Everything F1 podcast, where we're going to talk to you today about all the latest breaking news from around the paddock, any of the latest releases of the car liveries, and just a general chit-chat about all the things going on around the F1 world. Today I've got Danny with me, Coops and Spunge. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
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 How are we all doing today? So, Danny, we'll go to you first. How's your week been?
All good. Yeah, still on furlough, still at home, full-time parenting, stressed to death, decorating, all good. All good fun.
It ends on Monday, doesn't it? You're going to have a child-free days.
Well, no, because
at least
one child.
One
yeah,
child.
He's
free.
easy. He's the easy one. He sits on the Xbox. the other one's the nightmare. Wants to stand on the tables and climb out the windows and throw herself into the oven. She's a 1.5. Yeah.
Yeah, I get rid of two of mine, and then I've still got the 1.5-year-old one as well.
It's good fun.
So yeah, I feel your pain, brother. I feel your pain. Coops, how have you been this week? What have you been up to?
Work, and more work.
And you've had your hair cut?
Yes. I decided to go down the lockdown route. Got clippers, cut the hair.
But you didn't get rid of that glorious beard. That's the main
I
thing.
kept it weird. Trimmed it a wee bit.
Sponge, what have you been up to this week?
Not a lot. I had my vaccine today and just working end of VAC quarter at work. So it's been all excitement.
And you're polishing something under the table. What is that you're polishing?
I am designing my own sim racing steering wheel. So that's my gear shifter and that's my steering wheel.
So you're polishing your gear shifter while we're having a podcast. Okay.
Indeed, yes. Sorry to everybody that can't see that. Obviously, I
was going to say, yeah, great.
Really
great
want
listening.
to see this.
Yeah.
And for me, I've just been doing more of the same. I've got a trainee at work, so I'm just teaching them how to do the job. So that's all good and fun and games. And I've got a new gadget, which I'm quite proud of, chuffed about.
He's waving his fist at us, everybody. Just
Samsung Galaxy Watch 3. So I get all the notifications from the chaps on my watch now, so I can see what's going on at all times, even though I can't respond all the time. So it's good fun. I like my gadgets. I'm a bit of a gadget geek. Okay, well, let's move on to some news that's come from the Formula One world. First of all, we want to say a massive congratulations to Billy Monger. And I know someone who's been looking into that a bit more, Danny, will have a bit more of the information about what Billy Monger has been up to. So, what can you tell us, Danny?
Well, he did. For anybody who doesn't know, Billy Monger, I think most people do, former F4 driver, had an accident in 2017 at Donington Park and lost both his legs. Only a young lad as well. You've never seen anybody smile as much as that boy does. Honestly,
he's happy chap.
There's a if you're interested, there's a documentary on BBC iPlayer. There was about that, and honestly, the nurses said he was never not smiling, even going through all that. So he's a great lad. So for comic relief, he did 140 miles of walking, biking, and kayaking.
Wow.
So yeah, which is pretty impressive.
Impressive for a guy without his legs.
Exactly, unbelievable.
Yeah, so it's impressive for anyone fully fit, let alone somebody with minus 2 legs.
Yeah, yeah. It's obviously the bike was made especially for what he needed, and I think that's the unbelievable bit, isn't it? The biking. I imagine trying to do that. Yeah, unbelievable.
Obviously, he was showing pictures half, all the way through. And obviously, it did look grueling. He looked like he was going through a lot of pain, but he persevered and he completed the challenge. And more power to him. He did absolutely fantastically, and he raised, hopefully, well, we'll find out on Red Nose Day how much he's raised. But I imagine he's raised a pretty penny for doing what he did. So congratulations, Billy Monger. Thank you very much for doing that. And it's amazing to see you doing so well. And it's always very, very good to see your happy smiley face on TV doing these amazing things. Coops, any news articles that you want to go into and talk about?
Well, one of the things is Alpine, who launched one of the nicest liveries of recent memory, also announced that there will be no team principal or single team principal. We're just
Okay.
There's nobody going to be in the Toto Wolff role. It's a dual-headed role, so there'll be two people. One of the everybody knows back in January the surprise exit of 𝐼𝐚𝐧𝐬, who left completely the Renault. Everybody thought he would move up the chain, but he left the Renault group altogether. He was then replaced by Laurent Rossi, and they've brought in the racing. So Davide Brevio, who has come over from Suzuki from MotoGP, is going to be the racing director. On the same level as him is going to be a gentleman called Marcin Borowski, who will be the executive director. And both of them will answer to this Laurent Rossi. So I don't know who has overall say. It seems a bit murky.
So who's going to be at the races? Do we know which member's going to be at the races?
From what we gather, Davide Brevio will be the kind of day-to-day man at the track. So he's the man who's there. From what I've gathered, reading and listening to stuff, his speciality is dealing with people of cultures and different attitudes. And of course, when you've got Ocon and Alonso in the same team, you're going to need somebody that's able to deal with that. And this other guy, Borowski or whoever he is, I've never heard of the guy before, so I don't know really much about him. He's dealing with the development of the chassis and the powertrain, and he will coordinate the development of the car. Well, Davide will be the racing director, so I would imagine he'll be working more on this Breville guy will be the guy that you'll see on the pit wall and deal with the day-to-day running on the track and at the weekend.
Yeah.
The other person deals with more stuff at the factory, I think.
I can remember last year when everybody thought Toto was leaving, and he said that this would be the way forward. There wouldn't be a team principal, and he said that actually this would be the way forward, and there'd be no need for a team principal as such.
Didn't they do that at Mercedes anyway? When they first had non-executive chairman Niki Lauda and Toto Wolff, there was never actually a specific team principal from memory when they first started.
I think what will end up happening is Brevio will be seen as the kind of de facto team principal, although he might not have the title. He'll probably, to us laymen's, will be the kind of team principal. He'll probably be the guy that will do the talking at the press conferences. He'll be the guy that's there when they're, on the Thursday before the Grand Prix. So
okay, well that's the team. Obviously, we'll find out when the season progresses how that actually plays out. But let's talk about that beautiful livery. It's a gorgeous car. What are your thoughts on it, Spunge? You've seen the car, had a look at it?
Yeah, it's very tidy. I've got to be honest, it's not one of my favourites.
Oh, really? Okay.
Me in the minority again. You know what I'm like. I always like to. Yeah. There we go. But yeah, it's not my favourite, but it's tidy. It's not it's not an abomination. So
it's very French, isn't it? Very French. And the pearlescent. Is it a pearlescent blue paint, or is it just the way it was acting underneath the lights?
I don't know. I think it's going to be one of them where we have to wait for it to come out in the daylight and
in standard daylight.
See what it's like then. But yeah, it's smart. Let's go with smart.
It's better than the black and yellow that they had previously.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah,
it's mint.
Coops, what do you think about it?
Well, I like it. It's very much the blue is very much of the Prost Formula One car. I think it's the same. I think it's a French royal blue or something they call it. And it does look that colour because I saw a quick video of the shakedown with Silverstone. Colour on the renders is very similar to the actual colour of the car.
So it is going to be like a two-tony pearlescent kind of
fluorescent, metallic-y type blue. But yeah, it's nice. I do like it. It was different. People seem to like it better than the interim livery that they came out with.
Yeah.
When it was just the black, which I thought was quite nice.
Yeah.
Oops, I'm all for you having an opinion, mate. But I've got to say, this is a family show, and coming out with swear words like Prost on a podcast, that's not right, man. It's not right.
They won a race. Did they not? Was that Ligier that won the race? Was that Ligier at Monaco? It was, wasn't it? The blue.
Yes, it was. Yeah, Panis.
Yeah, it was Panis. Yeah. So I mean, but the car was nice, and I listened to the podcast that he was on, and he would have been okay and done a decent job. He lost the money. I think Peugeot pulled out, and once he lost Peugeot and stuff, he lost all his money. He had no work backing, but that's what happens in Formula One, isn't it?
So, Danny, what were your opinions on the livery of the Alpine car?
I like it. Yeah, that's mint Colgate toothpaste. That's what it reminds me of. But no, I do like it. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah,
it's going to look nice running around, and it's different. It's not like I was worried about us going to be having loads of white cars with extra detail this year, because everyone seems to just be splashing white as the main color, and then having just little streaks of color. I'm just pleased that we've got a few cars that actually haven't done that this year, so that I'm quite pleased with the look of it. It's not my favourite of the last few days, and we'll go into a bit of that in a few moments. In the news of Alpine, they've announced a reserve driver in Daniel 𝐃𝐫𝐢𝐯𝐶. Daniel 𝐃𝐫𝐢𝐯. I always have trouble with his name. So they've got the Russian as a reserve driver. So obviously he's not completely out of F1, even though he probably thought he was going to be by the end of last year. So that's good news for him. Good news to see Alpine, bringing in somebody proven. At least he's proven that he can drive a car. Is he a race winner? I can't remember. Put one on the top step? I doubt it.
No,
I don't think so.
No.
Last year he got fourth.
Okay.
That was the best he did. I like him, and he's an okay driver. He just doesn't really have any consistency, does he? But as a reserve driver, you don't need that. So there you go.
No, and he'll be happy to just have his name kind of somewhere still near Formula One for the future of another team, to become a development driver or whatever for a young up and coming team. Okay, well, we'll move on from Alpine. That's pretty much all we can talk about those. Nice car, funny management structure, and Daniel 𝐃𝐫𝐢𝐯𝐸. We'll move on to the next point of the article, point of news, and that is Jamie Chadwick. She's been held on as development driver at the Williams. That's great news for kind of equality in the sport. Should be hoping to get an actual main seat at some point in the near future. What are your thoughts on that, Coops?
Not really got anything bad to say about it. She's done well. This is her second year, isn't it? I think she was development last year as well. She was. I think Jamie was one of the ones that was affected quite a lot by the COVID situation because the W Series didn't happen.
Yeah.
I think she did have a drive somewhere, but I don't think it was anything like a regional Formula 4 run or something. I can't remember offhand. But she's the reigning W Series champion. Once that kicks off this season, she'll be. I think she's got the drive there to defend the title. And
the W Series is obviously a support race to the F1, so that's an amazing thing. It's going to bring a lot more kind of spotlight to the female drivers. We're all for equality in the sport, and we want to bring more obviously females into the sport as drivers.
We kind of basically want it to be that the women being in Formula One and just be treated as a driver rather than there's the female driver. It's just as the driver.
Yeah, absolutely. But you kind of have to go down this path of kind of talking about them, talking about women drivers and F1 racing drivers a bit more before that can happen. So we really need to emphasise them.
A few dinosaurs out there, I'm sure. There was a lot of kind of misogynic comments about Jamie when she was first announced as a driver for Williams, and but. They're seeming to be more and more in the minority. I watched the W Series when it was on. I think Channel 4 covered it. Pretty decent. Are they Formula 3 cars or are they Formula
4?
Some decent driving. It was a good series to watch, and it can only get better. So
yeah, absolutely. And with the coverage and with the the spotlight on them from the Formula 1 weeks, I'm sure teams will be watching this because they know that there's a positive kind of movement, with the We Racers One being inclusive. They're going to be looking at these series and going, hang on, we can probably get someone equal to our driver from this W Series within our team, and we'll look pioneering. It's the way to go, and I think it's going to be great for the sport and great for the W Series and great for Formula One, really, essentially, in the long run. More power to Jamie. She's doing a great job. Let's hope she wins it again this year and really cements her place in that Williams team or in another team for that matter. Okay, well, let's move on to the next article.
With Williams, just quickly while we're there, Jack Aitken was confirmed to stay on as well as the reserve driver. I think that was just announced today.
Yes, yeah. He was also last year's reserve driver, wasn't he? So he actually got his F1 debut in the Williams last year. So he'll be looking on kind of moving further with that into this year, and hopefully getting a place on the grid at some point if any of the other drivers get COVID or any other things.
He done well when he raced.
He did.
Yeah, he caused the accident which stopped Russell from getting his win, mind you, unfortunately. But but other than that, he didn't really do anything wrong. Go out there, drive the car. He was relatively competitive in what car he had, so you know.
That sounded a bit Murray Walkerish. There's nothing wrong with it. That car, apart from it's on fire. He didn't. Yes. He didn't have a bad race, apart from he caused an accident. Yeah.
Well, he spun and lost a wing. I mean, like I'm sure Hamilton's done that.
Yeah.
You know, Hockenheim 2019. It happens.
Yeah.
But all right, him and Fittipaldi done fine. So yeah, and I think Fittipaldi's also been confirmed on as well. We'll just mention his name, but yeah, don't think it was much of a surprise, to be honest.
No, solid pair of hands for the wheel of the Williams if they require him for the reserve driver. And there was some we don't know whether they're fake, but we saw some renders of what were called the Williams car. Now we think they're fake.
Please no,
because we don't like the look of them at all. And Coops' shocked look in the camera at the moment does kind of denote how special he thinks the car would be if it was that bad.
I think it's a fair, what they call it, a fair evaluation of them leaks. I think to say that it's pretty awful.
Yeah.
Oh, it was horrible. If it's the one that was on the chat earlier, that was disgusting. The renders.
Let's hope they're not real.
Now the front of it looks good. See with the blue and the wee touch of the yellow. See when we get to the rear of it and it's that weird bluey
gradiented blue, wasn't it?
Oh no! Kind of hoping that it's a really bad render because it wasn't the best render in the world.
Let's hope not. Anyway, but we got that one to look forward to on Friday, so we'll have news of that next week. In the podcast, and of course, as always, straight on the page as soon as it's released, because we pride ourselves on our breaking news. Okay, we'll move on to the next subject. Porsche VW considering entering F1 in 2025. Now, I didn't know about this until Danny brought this to my attention, so I'll let Danny talk about it. What can you tell us about this possibility?
Well, nothing much has been said about them, apart from them showing a great interest, apparently. Porsche and VW has shown a big interest or a great interest in getting involved in supplying engines in 2025, because that will be when e-fuels are implemented. So an interest in coming in then. Who they'll supply, I have no idea, because there's not whether there'll be a space then. As I said to you earlier, I know Christian Horner said he's open to working with the right partner.
Yeah, and he would be. Porsche is a great name to have. But
yeah,
although
I mean they've bit off a big thing, haven't they? Really, I mean I know that
developing their own engine.
Yeah, they've decided. They said to take it on for a couple of years would make no sense, so they've got to really go for it. So yeah. And they're going to supply them as far as they're aware. For now, it'll be Red Bull engines and see how they get on. But of course, I think if between then and now a supplier like that comes up, I'm sure he's going to be making them discussions because it'll make life a lot easier for them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
What would your thoughts be on Porsche entering Spunge? Have you got an opinion on them? Would that be good for the sport?
Absolutely. I think any of the kind of world-renowned manufacturers are thinking of entering the sport. I think it's great for the sport, isn't it? At the end of the day, you know, we want more competition, and them coming in can only mean more competition. So, yeah, very, very. I would be very happy if that were to happen.
And the motivation of the e-fuels is going to be key, isn't it, for kind of for the future of the sport and for the future of obviously the world being green and kind of eco-friendly. What's your opinion on that possibility, Coops?
Yeah, it could all be good if a decent, as the other guys have said, you know, VW Group have got a lot of brands. It could look good in Formula One, whether it be Porsche or Audi, potentially Bugatti if they've still got them under their umbrella at the time.
Or it could even be a Skoda.
Lamborghini.
Yeah, Lamborghini. They've got so many brands. Seat.
I mean, it would probably be Audi because Audi are they in Formula E? I don't know if they're going to be leaving Formula E at the end of the year because there was two that are pulling out. I can't remember which two it was at the end of the season, but it will be a kind of known brand. You know, whether they come in You know, it looks certain that Sauber will be losing the Alfa Romeo partnership at the end of this year, or maybe the end of next year. So
they might be looking for someone else to front.
So they could move over to someone else.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get a lot more than maybe a couple more manufacturers coming in.
No.
There were always rumours, aren't there? Always rumours.
Well, they've died down over the last few years when they realised how expensive it is to develop the power unit that we've got just now. And in fact, Honda made an almighty cock-up of it for so long, only just catching up. And then just as they've caught up, they've pulled out of it. But so if they can get the balance right and make it not quite as expensive, and with the budget cap coming in and stuff, I think Formula One, in terms of bringing more attention to it and getting manufacturers involved, is a lot better with the budget cap, because people are looking at it thinking, I'm not spending 500 like Toyota did a few years ago with the biggest budget and got nothing out of it. You don't need to do that anymore. Get rid of that, the complicated nature of the power unit. Then you can see a couple more, manufacturers coming in, or maybe Haas will get bought out, not by a Russian billionaire, but by a manufacturer, or Alfa Romeo or Sauber could become the Porsche Audi Works team, because it would be easier for them to do it.
Could be, yeah, absolutely. So it's all good news if an engine supplier like that does come into the sport. We all agree. Now, we've talked about the Alpine car launch this week. We've also had a couple of others, so we'll move on to those now. First, we had the Merc on Tuesday, and that car looks a beauty. I think anyway, looks absolutely fantastic. They've stuck with the black Mercedes colour as the main colour, which has ruffled a few feathers in comment sections all over the world in social media. And they're fading to the grey to silver arrows with the silver slightly at the back. And then they've put some nice red detailing at various points along the car, and the standard Petronas greeny, bluey, turquoisey thing. The stripe that goes down the length of the car as well. So it looks certainly a bit like a slight transitional livery from last year, just adding to the quality of the livery they had last year. So what are your thoughts on the Mercedes car, Sponge?
It's nice. I didn't expect much of a change there. I don't think they need to change it very much. Like you say, there's the usual backlash that always seems to happen when one of these teams is in the lead, but yeah, I think they've done quite well. I'm not sure about the AMG on the top.
Yeah, they're pushing the AMG brand rather than the Mercedes stars, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what you're going to see. I think that's why Alpine did it, or Renault did it with Alpine. They
slowly fade the Mercedes brand out of F1. Do you think? Maybe just leave it as a Mercedes engine supplier, and then they have AMG as the constructor.
Yeah, but then, I mean, at the same token, I'm not quite sure what other brands Mercedes would want to push. Smart, I don't know. Are we going to have smart 4.4s on the grid, or I'm not quite sure what they would go with. But I mean, at the end of the day, they can do what they want, can't they? They're the best of a lot of them. So
absolutely, we'll always still call them the Mercedes team anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything to add, Coops?
Yeah, I liked it. It was nice. The black's always nice. The new owner, Ineos, have got ourselves a nice prominent sponsor on there. Not 100% sold in the AMG fading into the silver at the back. I'll need to have a look at it when it's on the track, really, to see. But yeah, it was nice.
But it looks nice, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
and they're hiding a lot of the floor work, weren't they? This year's floor. Yeah, just so obviously their competitors can't steal any ideas. What are your thoughts on the Mercedes livery, Danny?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it's nice. As I say, looks like they've used a full pack of AMG stickers on the back and just went mad. I think they got a fan in and said, "There you go, use them all, go for it." Yeah.
The young guy that was in doing work experience ordered far too many sheets of the.
Yeah. He spread these out for us, and he just put them all in one spot. Yeah, but it's
kind of like my child does when he gets a pack of stickers.
Yeah, all over each other. But yeah, it's nice. I like it.
And there was uproar because no one could see the red star for Nicky, but it is there. It's behind the mountings of the halo, so it's like a red Mercedes star, literally just by the mountings of the back of the halo. So it is there.
I mean, that itself just shows what people are like, isn't it? I mean, it's obvious it's going to be there. It's pretty obvious it's going to be there, and then straight away people kick off, and you think, come on.
Pretend uproar. Uproar
just
because
for
they
the
can't
sake
see
of it. Yeah, it's just something, isn't it? Oh, what? Yeah, they get up on a morning. What are we going to complain about today? Well, yeah, I'll put Lewis at the top of the list and see if something else comes up because. Yeah,
pretty spot on actually, Danny.
Yeah, oh, nothing else today, right? Lewis, right? You. Come on. I don't know if they can be bothered. I really don't. Yeah, it's a lot of wasted energy, but they could be sticking stickers on cars.
Exactly. Well, talking about Mercedes, there was a rumor, and it's not been confirmed yet, that Nico Hülkenberg will be the reserve driver for the Mercedes team. Apparently, the ink is pretty much dry on the contract. It's just not been released. So that would be great news for Nico Hülkenberg and his many fans around the paddock.
Passed it.
He's passed it.
He's had his chance. He's had more than a chance, and he never managed to get in the top 3. So,
ladies and gentlemen,
Coops is the critic.
Yeah. Doesn't mince his
right.
words.
He's absolutely spot on.
He is, yeah.
Absolutely spot
I like him,
but...
so I can't say it. I can't bring myself to say it. I really like him. So.
But just imagine if he gets the seat. If Bottas might get COVID for a week.
If Bottas gets COVID, they're putting George Russell back in the car.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Nobody's getting another seat in Merck until George Russell's in that car.
So it's just reserve driver in name only. He won't necessarily even get a seat, will he? That's true.
Mercedes still got Van Dorn, and they've got and George Russell as well, who's a de facto reserve driver if they need to get somebody.
Have they got 𝐃𝐫𝐢𝐯𝐬 still as well? Is he still on the Mercedes payroll?
He couldn't race is because his license had ran out because he hasn't long enough. I think you can have your super license runs for about 3 years. He hadn't raced in top level for 3 years, so when they realised they needed somebody, they couldn't get him in. That was why he wasn't involved in any of the other stuff. When with Sergio Perez and Stroll went down. Because they needed to get his super license.
That's an error. Having reserve drivers that haven't got super licenses is pretty much that's bad form, really, isn't it?
Well, Van Dorn's got one and he hasn't done anything. Yeah. So you don't need one, do you, as a Mercedes reserve driver at the minute? I don't think.
Van Dorn did Formula E, so he needs it for Formula E. Plus, Mercedes have also got Nick De Vries, who's driving in Formula E as well as a reserve driver. So I'm not 100% sold.
The Nico Hülkenberg rumour.
I mean, it was more, I think, Toto Wolff was quoted as saying that we know about him and he's a talent. And it's very much a kind of, the sporting cliche. Yeah, he's a good driver. Yeah, we know what he's about. Like, whether it means that we're going to sign him or not, I don't know.
Okay, well, let's get back onto the livery, the livery, because the livery, what we thought was quite nice. We had a vote react actually on the page, asking people who they thought which livery they preferred. Would it be the old Silver Arrows, last year's W11, the first black Mercedes, or this year's W12? Now the votes were quite interesting. The W10 got 2.4 thousand votes. The W11 got 876, and this year's W12 got 1,800 reactions. So people seemed individually to like the Silver Arrows the most. But what I take from this, and I'm maybe clutching at straws here, but actually, if you add the two black Mercedes numbers up together, people prefer the black Mercedes. I don't know. Perhaps that's me being too clutching at too many straws there. But what do you say? Do you like this black livery more than the Silver Arrows, or do you prefer the Silver Arrows? What's your opinion on that, Sponge?
They do what they like, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, liveries since the 90s really don't mean a lot to me anymore. Right. But yeah, I think they do what they like. At the end of the day, if they're standing up for Lewis, then all power to them. I'm not really bothered either way, not at all.
Coops, which one do you prefer? Where would you put your?
I like the black ones.
You like the black ones? Okay.
I think more.
And what about the Mercedes cars?
I think more people vote for silver pure out of cut their nose off to spite their face, just because they want to put a dig in a bit loose.
Yes.
They all seem to think it's Lewis Hamilton that made Mercedes turn it black. Now, nobody is going to make Mercedes do anything.
No.
If Toto Wolff and Mercedes agree with what Hamilton said, if he approached them about diversity and all that, okay. If they didn't, then they aren't going to, you know.
Don't you love it though? Don't you just love it? It's like, if they did, then yes. It's like, really? Does it bother people that much? And if it does, why? Why?
Because it's something to complain about again.
Social media, it's what they do.
How about you, Danny? What do you prefer? Do you prefer the old silver arrows, or would you like the new black arrows? And which of the black arrows do you prefer?
Yeah, I like the black. I like last year's over this year's, I think. But again, it's 6 and 2 3s, really. You know, the car's the best car on the track. That's what's important to me. You know, how it performs, how it looks. If you're getting pissy over that, then you really need to think about why you're watching F1. Because it's just the colour of a car. I mean, you know, the reason that they changed the colour doesn't really, you know, it made a massive impact at the time. But how often does that cross your mind when you look at the black Mercedes? It's just the colour of the car now. You know, Lewis still has his message, but yeah, it's just the colour of the car. You know, I don't see an issue. But yeah, I prefer last year's.
I mean, it's not like they go to the Ferraris. Like, they've draped the car in the colour of blood. How dare they do this? I can't believe it.
Well, the way people act, you'd think it said BLM on the car, and it doesn't.
No,
you know, it doesn't say that. I don't know if people are looking in different places to me. I don't know if it says it under the floor or something, you know, but it doesn't. I've not seen it. I don't know why people think it hasn't got a banner on the back. You know, it's.
No.
I don't see what the problem is.
The closest to the BLM being on the car is, I think, Lewis Hamilton had it on the top of his helmet.
Which is his choice. Yeah.
At the top of the helmet. That's it. They've got something on the. They had something on the halo, I think, but I don't know if it was a BLM thing or if it's something to do with.
No, it was never about BLM for Black Lives Matter for Mercedes. It was kind of about
more about
end racism. It was end racism, wasn't it? Was it end racism?
Yeah, end racism thing. It's not BLM. BLM's Lewis Hamilton, who hasn't brought politics into Formula One. If anybody has followed Formula One, there's always been politics in Formula One.
And even that, it's not it's not a political matter anyway. It's a human rights matter. Anyway, we won't want to go too much into detail with that. I'll talk about my favourite Merc. My favourite Merc is actually this year's Merc. I think it's a beautiful car. I really like it. I like the way it gradients into the grey to the silver at the back, and I like the red detail because red is my favourite colour. So yeah, I like it. It looks nice. It looks a very pretty car. And I'll be enjoying seeing that on the track this year. Moving on to the next livery release, then we'll talk about the long-awaited return of the British Racing Green and the brand Aston Martin to the grid.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sorry about that noise, everybody, but I just had to make that noise because it's so nice.
So okay, sounds like the perfect person to go to first, making these grunts and groans while polishing his something underneath the table.
If everybody's just tuning in now, that sounds even more dodgy than it did the first time.
So, Sponge, your opinion on the green, the British Racing Green of the Aston Martin?
I think it's beautiful. I think it's something completely different to what we used to.
Yes.
I just think it's classy. It's really nice. I love the shade of green. I'm not usually a green fan. But I mean, you know that I'm into my GT racing as well. And I love the Aston Martin, the kind of green and then really light green around the grille kind of thing, or red around the grille.
Yeah.
So I already liked the general idea of Aston Martin liveries. So,
okay.
But yeah, I think they've perfectly transitioned it over to Formula One. I think it's a beautiful. I think it's the best one so far.
Oh, okay.
Except for McLaren, obviously.
McLaren fanboy are us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Unashamedly.
I thought the green was very slightly off the standard British Racing Green, which is, you know, it's fine, but it's not the exact shade I was expecting. It's not a bad shade, and I think it looks nice. It's a very beautiful car, but it's not quite the.
Just because And we probably need to see it in the track. It might just be the way that it was stylized.
Yeah, true.
And the light.
And they did have that nice kind of pink or magenta stripe going across the front. Obviously, BWT has still got their slight kind of take their touch of their color on the car. But actually, it looks really nice. It looks nice against the green, doesn't it?
It looks nice in the overalls as well, with just the shoulders green on the overalls.
I mean, there was that worry from Lawrence Stroll that he didn't want his cars, especially an Aston Martin this year, looking pink. But they've got the touch of magenta, as I think Gary called it in the chat. And
you've used the word magenta twice tonight. Are you okay to that?
So, only because I heard someone else. Say it. I would say pink.
I had to pop down B&Q and flick through the little colour chart to see what it was. It's fancy purple to me.
What are your thoughts on the car, Danny?
Yeah, it's nice. Favourite car this year, I think, looks wise. They've had it out on the tracks today, and it looks pretty nice. I mean, the magenta-y, purpley, pinky, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't stand out too much. It's just enough to break up the colour. It's I really like it.
Brilliant. And their driver lineup this year obviously is going to be Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll. Sebastian Vettel was there and he had his hat on. Perhaps hiding some sins, aerodynamics that he might be having this year. But do you think he's going to perform well this year in the Aston Martin, Coops?
Yes.
You think he will have shaken the bad juju of the Ferrari and perform well?
Well, there's nothing about the bad juju from Ferrari. I mean, you can't, as much as Sebastian Vettel may not have won a championship a number of years, he's a 4-time world champion, and you don't just forget that talent overnight.
No.
Ferrari decided not to support him. It was clear that they just weren't bothering with him. You could hear the limited talk over the radio, like, well done, and like, fine.
Yeah.
The car is not suited to Vettel. Vettel doesn't like the rear end of a car to be quite as loose as that Ferrari was. Charles Leclerc seemed to be quite fine with it. When you get a 4-time world champion saying between qualifying and a race, going, it's two different cars, what have you done to the car?
Yeah.
Then you're going to Mercedes-inspired Aston Martin. There's a Mercedes engine and a Mercedes rear end on it. The car is going to be more suited to Vettel. I think you'll see him qualify way up near the top.
Okay.
You might see him in the top 5 at Bahrain if the car performs as well as it looks.
Yeah. Well, there was a side by side of this year's Mercedes next to the at this year's Aston Martin, and obviously people going, they look exactly the same. They're spitting images, but actually no, they're quite different actually if you look at them. So they're not gone down the route of let's copy everything that Mercedes.
Well, they're not allowed to anymore because they're not allowed to use 3D cameras or anything like that. They stopped that, but yes, they took a baseline from last year. So there was the year before Mercedes. Yeah,
the W10.
But the thing about it is, even last year's pink Mercedes wasn't a pink Mercedes because they got a baseline for it, but then the Racing Point guys or now Aston Martin guys would design it their own way and upgrade it their own way, and it ended up looking a very different car.
Yeah.
If you look at the car now, there's is it Mercedes that have a very distinct bump in the engine cover on one side,
right,
compared to Aston Martin. They both have the same power unit. I think it's the Mercedes. So there's definitely something that's packaged different about it being the green Mercedes or this or that. I mean, that's old.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it.
They are looking at the side by side today. I saw they were completely different. The side pods of the Mercedes are quite rectangular with a slight curve on, whereas the Aston Martin is very round. They've got completely different floors, and from what you can see of the floor, where it guides the aero underneath the car, they look completely different. And then the brake, what do we call them? The brake ducts. They're completely different. They're in a completely different place, in fact. So it is a different car. It's two separate cars, and people hopefully won't be on that whole, it's just another Mercedes, because it's not. It's a completely different piece.
They will be if this Aston Martin becomes third in the championship or gets to third in the championship. They're going to be, well, it's just another Mercedes. time, whatever.
Well, let's go on to Ferrari then, because there hasn't been any release of the car yet. We haven't seen anything like that, but there has been speculation and talk that they've found some speed. Binotto has given an interview saying they have found speed within that engine. So
it was the worst Ferrari season since 1980, I think, wasn't it? Something like that. But no, it's not going to be hard. I think that's if Ferrari are as fast as they say they are, or faster than last year than they say they are. You know, they'll be the reason why you might not see McLaren get top 3. They might be struggling to get 5th. You know, they look. If Racing Point hadn't got the points taken off them for the brake duct issue last year, you know, they wouldn't have got 3rd, and if Ferrari weren't a dog of a car, they wouldn't have got 4th. Ferrari, they have to get better. Argument there, really, is there? I mean, they can't have another season sitting where they are. No. Unless they start hitting each other and do a Rosberg Hamilton from a few years ago. But
Binotto's going to be.
Do you think that they will, though?
You locked the door a minute ago.
What, score more points?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
There's one thing about Ferrari is that I think they had a year, was it 1980, where, was it Gilles Villeneuve or one, I can't remember the name of the driver, but he never scored any points, I don't think. And then the next year, they fixed the car and won the championship. Ferrari have always been a team that are able to come back.
But they've also got a new driver in Carlos Sainz, so they can hopefully score more points. Because what they won't want to do is disillusion him in the first year of him driving with them. So they're going to try and at least make him feel at home and give him a car and give him equal chance to Charles Leclerc.
The thing is, they won't care, and they never do care. They've pretty much ruined Sebastian Vettel. Like Coops said earlier, 4-time world champion.
God forbid,
and it's like,
yes,
but we are Ferrari. It's like, yes, we know you're Ferrari. We know you've been there from the start. We know that you're red. We know that Italians are fanatic about you. We know that you get historical payments, but really, are you actually proving that you deserve to be on that grid and that you deserve these payments? Not one little bit.
Your dad won't like hearing that, Sponge. Your dad's a big Ferrari fan.
Sorry, sometimes the truth hurts, doesn't it? You know.
And you'll say that while he's not in the room.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's going to be more white in the Ferrari car this year, I think.
Is there?
Yeah, because if you look at they announced the team and it had the white, green and red stripe down the overall, and there was a couple of leaked photos online that showed the front wing with the white on the front wing, and then if you looked at the other picture, and I don't know how legit these pictures are, but the other picture it showed that the rear wing was white with the in bit having the white with the red and green stripe on it as well, which they've done a few years ago. So
hang on. So if this is right, we're going to have half of the people moaning because Mercedes are black, and half of the people moaning because Ferrari have got white. Oh my God! Oh, that's a bit of a grey area, Danny.
Hey, you're here all week, everybody. Let's talk about the final livery reveal that was revealed today in the Haas team, one of the Ferrari customer cars. We call it the Haas team, but it's not really a Haas team anymore. It's kind of Russia 2.0 because it's basically a Russian flag. Yeah, that's all I can say about it. Really, it's white with a Russian flag on the side. What were your thoughts when you first saw that, Coops?
To see if you get rid of the politics of it and what the fact that it's a Russian-styled car and Mazepin is the most hated Formula One driver they've ever been. It's actually quite a nice livery. It's quite old school. I like the numbers, like the kind of old school circle with the black number on it. I like the kind of flow of it and all that. I mean, it's very clear that it's a Russian influenced car. And they've done it because Mazepin is not allowed to race under the Russian flag.
So he's going to race in one.
I read up on it on my way up the road to see, because there was talk about they might have to change it, but they won't have to change it because the ruling, basically what it is Formula One is signed up to WADA. Yeah. And WADA, the World Anti-Doping Association or Agency or whatever the last word is, and they've come out and said because of the state funded doping to Russian athletes, any Russian athlete on any of the WADA sports are not allowed to be, they're not allowed to have the national anthem of Russia. You're not allowed to have the Russian flag.
Well, there's no risk of that, really, is there, in Haas needing the national anthem being played?
Let's just an almighty cock up, and the Haas cars are the only 2 cars left on the grid. Yeah, we've got no chance of podiums or anything like that. So, but what it did say in the ruling, because it went to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, or CAS, who upheld the ban. However, the flag can be used, but the colours of the flag can be.
Right.
Because technically, you should have to tell Alpine to change, because they've used the colour on their wing, the red, white and blue.
Right.
So there's no reason to say they can't use red, white and blue. So it is what it is. The Mazepin family have invested in Haas. They're now the title sponsor. And they've used the Russian flag as influence to get round the fact that you can't use, you can't have the Russian flag on, at any of the, I think it's for a year or 2, I can't remember the length of it. Anything Haas does is going to be hated on, unless it's Mick Schumacher. There was apparently a petition going around to get them to change it so that it looks like Mick Schumacher, or give him a different livery.
Give him a German flag.
Yeah.
Nah, but I mean, it does, like you say, it does actually look like an okay livery. It's pretty simple, pretty white. Like I was saying earlier about all the cars being white, I had that fear. Haas has gone down that route of pretty much a dominant white car with just the minor detail on there. But yeah, let's say it looks all right.
It's clean. If you get rid of everything else, it is a nice looking livery for what it is.
Yeah.
Some people did mention there's no sponsor but that one, but then Haas have never had a sponsor other than the Rich Energy fiasco. They were only just Haas with a few sponsors.
And now they're like, no, let's not do that again.
Let's go someone with actual money this time. Anyway, we did a favourite livery of the week poll. This was before the drop of the Haas livery, so apologies that they weren't on there. But it was between the Merc, the Aston, and the Alpine car, and the results. The results were as follows. Alpine came actually in 3rd place with 836 votes. Aston Martin came 2nd with 953 votes, and overwhelmingly victorious was the Mercedes at 1.2 thousand votes in favour of. And I've got to say, I agree with the votes there. I actually think the Merc is the better looking car. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know I'm probably outnumbered in this chat with you 3 probably leaning towards the racing green, but I actually prefer the Merc.
Can I ask that everybody, is this the nicest looking Formula One grid we're going to have in a while?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, some really gorgeous cars. I love the Alfa Romeo too. I think it's a really good looking car, and the Alfa Tauri. The fact that they've reversed last year's livery, it looks bang on.
We just hope the Williams don't mess it up. Then Ferrari, I think there's going to be more white in the Ferrari, because that's pretty much all they can do. We know it's red. So what can we do? Add black, put white, a stripe down.
Stripe of green, maybe?
Yeah.
Don't know.
They need to come out one year with just troll everybody and say they're coming out with a pure black car or yellow or something.
Was it you that said that?
They put some go faster stripes on the side. That's the Speedy's family. Some Halfords go faster stripes that he's stuck on the side.
I am sure this will work. I don't know what accent that was. I thought that was French, wasn't it?
Arabic, I think, wasn't it?
That was Russian again, wasn't it?
That was Russian with a touch of French.
So, that's all pretty much we can talk about this week, unless anyone's got any other further news that they want to divulge to the podcast world.
Something I've just stumbled across is Bahrain Grand Prix tickets are now for sale. And it will be for people that have recovered from COVID and had vaccinations.
Makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. I think actually there's a good bit of news about Bahrain. Bahrain offered the whole of the grid the vaccination. They said, we can vaccinate you all while you're here. You can jump the queue. So get your season started off with a clear kind of conscience. And the F1 turned it down. They said, nope. we don't want to jump the queue. It's only right that the people that actually deserve the vaccinations first get them, and we get them in the order that we should get them. So, I mean, it's fair play to Formula One for turning them down and doing the noble thing, but it's also nice of Bahrain to offer as well. But
I mean, to be fair, I think last year showed what the way they've gone about it has worked pretty well. I mean, a few of them caught it, but there's thousands of people. You know, as much as it's limited skeleton staff and everything, there's still a lot of people around them tracks.
The Grand Prix, even with it being cut back, just run. I think there was,
you know,
is it not over 12,000 tests, probably more than that, and I think they had like 7 to 8 positives altogether.
I think it was like 120,000 actually. I think there were loads of tests, loads and loads of tests.
There's only 7 to 8 positives, so.
Yeah, it's that, which is nothing really, considering the. So I think, I mean, we mentioned at the end of last season, didn't we, how well they've done? I think they did brilliantly. So in all fairness, I think that they've got it right there. It seems silly to turn it down, but considering how well they did last year, they may as well just keep up with their. Yeah, exactly.
But it's good to hear that the fans will be there at Bahrain. It's going to add to the already great spectacle that we love of the F1. It's going to be great to have that kind of atmosphere at the racetracks. So all good news. So I think that's all we've got time to talk about this week. Thanks very much for listening. What we want you to make sure is you follow us on all social media platforms. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Also YouTube now. At Join EF1 on any of those social medias. Like us, follow us. Share us to your friends and family, and help us grow this fantastic community. One quick note that we do want to make sure you all join in with is our F1 Fantasy League. If you've got yourself an F1 Fantasy team on the F1 Fantasy app, you can make it join our league via the code 7FF60917CO. Join that. We've got 38 members already in the league, and last year, yours truly was the victor. So come and knock me off my perch. I know they make me talking about that.
No more. We're not allowed to do that anymore.
But there will be a prize for the winner, and it can't go to me. So it will be going to the highest scoring non-admin member of Everything F1. So good luck.
There's only 2 of the admin group in, by the way.
Oh yeah, we've got an admin group that we're just going to do between the 9 of us, or however many we've got at that time. So we'll see who can be the winner of the admins as well. But we'll be in the main league as well, so you can try and beat us over there on the F1 Fantasy. So I'll read that code again, and it will be all over our page and in the groups and everywhere for you to join as well as a constant reminder. But the Fantasy League code is 7FF60917CO. And that's about it. We'll be back with another show next week, hopefully. You can find us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. But for now, it's goodbye from me, James T. Goodbye from Coops. Bye, Coops.
Bye.
And goodbye from Danny.
Goodbye.
And goodbye from Sponge. And we'll see you all again soon. Bye-bye.